Some girls like a white
Bonjour!
to come
Comment
and
ça va?
sniff his nose around.
Greetings, hats and cats. This is your friendly jazz singer, Keri Chryst, joining you from Paris, France, for another
Create Now, sponsored by the Nebraska Arts Council.
A one, a two, a one, two. Well, if I had a cat that I could call my kitten, and if I had a cat that I
Demystifying
could
the
call
creative
my
process.
Step 4. Once we've clarified the goal, assessed the tools and skills at hand, we want to set some reasonable expectations. Now, we might want to build the Taj Mahal, but maybe we only have a bunch of toothpicks and we don't have a ton of time. So, instead of the Taj Mahal, maybe I'll make a log cabin. I think you get the idea. Here are some examples of how, after assessing the tools and skills and people and materials I have at hand, I was able to scale down my original plan to something that was actually doable in the time I had on hand with the materials I had.
For starters, as my mentor Mary Claire always reminds me, start with the low-hanging fruit. Which basically means instead of wasting time trying to decide what's the best thing to do, try starting with just the simplest thing that's right in front of you. And from there, you can play to your strengths while also letting go of anything you perceive to be a weakness. Let me give you some examples.
Once I was a sentimental thing.
In the urge to make music together, the low-hanging fruit last spring was a song that I knew that this particular pianist definitely knew and that the other musicians knew as well. A rather melancholy song about spring, which just seemed utterly appropriate during lockdown. I and my colleagues definitely had the strength of musicianship, but amongst us we didn't necessarily have very many sound engineering skills. And so I just had to kind of let go of my perfectionism when it came to the actual sound quality.
Spring this year has got me feeling like a horse that's never left the post.
I mean, the sound saturates all over the place, but, it's good enough. Remember, we said close enough is perfect. I mean, I could have wasted a lot more time getting hung up on that, and instead just pushed on through and made sure it got done. Again, all for the sheer pleasure of fulfilling the urge to make music with others.
I'd like to walk through the park just to kill the lonely hours, but spring can really hang you up the most.
And another quick example from my sewing projects. If you remember from step 2, the goal was to build my summer wardrobe. My skills are still pretty limited. I mean, I can make flat, square things and sometimes a few round things. So if I want to get around my weaknesses, I can have fun playing with the other elements that don't actually rely on sewing savvy, and I can play with colors or shapes, maybe set something a little asymmetric instead of straight to keep it interesting and still satisfy my creative urge despite limited skills. And last but not least, we don't want to forget the time factor, because the better we adjust our expectations to all of these things, the more fun we'll have, which brings us to the next step in our next video. So stay tuned for more tips on Demystifying the creative process.
Si j'avais un chat pour l'appeler mon bébé, alors je me retrouverais pas toujours toute seule.